My name is Michelle Williams and I am Head of Department of Food Science at Aarhus University in Denmark, and I was involved in a thematic network called EU Fruit, and I was asked to write that network application because at the time I was the chairperson of the EUFRIN, which is the European Fruit Research Institute's network, a European network in fruit research. And because I was the chairperson, then they asked me to write this network application, and then of course we were funded, and then I was the coordinator of the network.
And what did it consist of, more specifically? Was it meetings or data harvesting?
This network was focused very much on transferring some of the knowledge that we have in fruit research in Europe, transferring that from researchers to different end users within the fruit industry. And it was also about exchanging knowledge across national borders, so that we had groups of experts from different countries that came together and discussed twice a year their topic, their area of expertise. So there was an exchange across and learning across national boundaries within Europe.
And how did you succeed in reaching the producers? Because it's always a challenge in these kind of things.
Yeah, it is, but I think the partners already had very extensive national networks, and they already were doing research and communicating their research to quite large groups of end users that could be in the post-harvest chain, or they could be growers or breeders. And so they already had huge groups of what we call national networks, and then we could so actually it wasn't about trying to find end users and engage with end users, because we already had networks that were very well developed, and then we use those end users to communicate more to. Mm-hmm.
How did you find it working across Europe? I mean, what can be transferred and what can't be transferred? I mean, there must be something.
Well, I think by working in this network of all these European researchers, some of us are expert in some areas and others are experts in other areas, and then we have some overlap. And because this because EU Fruit was quite a big network, and we divided it into 4 topics, sort of a theme within the fruit theme, and those 4 topics were around breeding of new cultivars. The second topic was around pesticide residues and ways of finding alternatives to chemicals, and the third one was a general one around fruit quality and fruit handling and storage, so included the post-harvest area, and the last one was all around securing sustainable fruit production. And so because we had those sub-themes, then breeding was going on in some countries that were very strong in breeding, and other countries are very, very strong in reduced use of pesticides. And so then there was quite a lot of sharing when we came together. Some were very strong, but others learnt from that, and others were doing quite similar experiments, and we could compare the way that we were doing things. So there was an opportunity to really exchange knowledge between what I would say is the European experts, and that was really beneficial. And I think the meetings were very positive, and what was very good about them was that they very openly exchanged their local best practice. So I think that was really super positive. But you're right in that there are some areas that of course are of very little value to exchange knowledge on, because climatically we are very different countries, and because of our climate then we grow different cultivars. So of course the more southern countries were interested in more summer fruit type species, and they grow a lot of apricots, and of course that's of no relevance whatsoever to us in Norway or Sweden or Denmark or North Germany. So the majority of the focus was on apples and pears, with that being the biggest fruit species that is grown in Europe. But we did go into more specialised crops, because there were certain regions that had specialisation, and some countries that don't breed. Denmark, we don't breed fruit cultivars, but we are still very interested in the knowledge that's going on there, and also understanding who are the leaders, so that when we have a new training system, then we can reach out to those breeders, and we formed a network with them. So there was some learning based on our different climate, and based on our different expertise, and based on our different expertise. But I think one thing that's important is that for example, with climate change that is going on, that is recognised, then we are starting to see some new pests in countries where we haven't seen some of those pests and diseases before, and we could learn from countries that already had those pests and diseases. So instead of developing new knowledge in some areas, we could, by sitting together, work out what other countries had done with certain pests and diseases and transfer that knowledge into other countries. So that also is of benefit. Even though we do have climate, we do all have new challenges.
Is there anything in the design of the network that you say now should be done differently? Were there any obstacles? Or?
Yeah, I think there are lots of challenges in running a project where there are so many partners. There are some partners that will over-deliver, which is fantastic, and then there are other partners that will under-deliver, and how is that fair? But we had as long as we delivered as a whole network, we decided then we were good. We also had some unforeseen challenges where it takes a while to get people to understand what we're trying to achieve, and all the different new types of protocols and reporting that needed to be done, and that takes some time, and 3 years of course is still a short period of time to do anything to really implement new ways of doing things in organisations that are quite big. That takes time. Then we found that we were very optimistic about setting up a common database for sharing knowledge. So it was very, very fine that we went to meetings and we communicated things, but we felt that it would be very good to create a database, and that in itself is a really significant challenge, to make the information available to people, and to work out who is the target audience that's actually going to use the information. And then we came across the challenge that in the fruit industry, of course, we all publish our scientific articles in English, but all of our local grower or producer or industry information is in our local languages, and therefore we had documents in 10, 15 languages, and we didn't, of course, have the money to translate everything into English, because there are hundreds and hundreds of different articles that we put onto a knowledge platform. And so then we had to ask everybody to put on an English summary, and so that was an added cost for people to do that, because we hadn't really considered the whole language between, when we all get together we all speak English because we're researchers, but of course once we started to exchange and transfer all the knowledge for industry, then we realised we we were going to be battling away with all the local languages and how to then be able to exchange that information. So I think we underestimated the time involved in getting things onto the knowledge platform that we developed. And at the beginning we wanted to put everything on the knowledge platform because we wanted to build some level of momentum and practice. But then after a while we realized a lot of things were going onto the knowledge platform that maybe perhaps wasn't really of so much value for the people that were looking on the platform. So then we had to be quite ruthless and take a lot of things off the knowledge platform. And so, that's what you do. You learn as you go through. And after 2 years, we realized we need to maybe modify what went on the knowledge platform. But by then we had a huge amount and we'd already counted that as a deliverable. And so, that's the thing. You can't develop the perfect framework before you start something because you don't know where the project is going to end and the value of what you're creating. So I think we learned a massive amount of how to develop a knowledge platform. And if I wrote another project, I would, I would be much smarter when I designed a shared database, because you learn so much from doing it. But, I think everybody was very engaged in the process, and so we ended up with a lot of things on the knowledge platform, and people were very keen to be successful. So it wasn't that I had to poke or push or anything like that. People were very interested in it being successful, so that was quite good.
And the platform, is that now hosted by Eurofrin, or where is it?
Eurofrin, yes. Yes, that was what was agreed by the board of Eurofrin, was that instead of creating a completely separate website for EU Fruit, we would anchor the EU Fruit network to Eurofrin, because Eurofrin has been alive and well for many, many years, and so it has a brand and it will continue to function for many years. That is the intention. Whereas any 3-year project, it has a project life and then it disappears and nobody updates it. Whereas the whole Eurofrin network, there is a significant partnership that meets every year and continues to commit to fruit research. And everybody's doing fruit research and implementing the latest and the newest and creating new projects, so that network lives on. And so the website is hosted as part of the Eurofrin website, and therefore it should also now live on.
And has there been a follow-up from the network, a new project or a side project?
Well, I know that Eurofrin would be they are part of European projects quite frequently, different groups from the network, but this is the biggest project that involved everybody, and I know people are interested in continuing it. I must say, some of us are a little worn out. When you've finished a big project, then when you get to the end of it, you think, gosh, that was a lot of commitment and a lot of work. And of course, it would be really, really good if we could continue this platform and continue to populate it, and somehow continue to fund it. It would be very good, because I think what we created, fruit is a major thing in Europe. We all need fruit. Everybody needs fruit. Within climate change and within the sustainability challenges that we have in Europe, then fruit production, security of fruit production, fruit quality, trustworthiness, healthy foods, all very, very relevant. So it's not that, this project is now finished. It will continue to be of value, but how to continue to fund it or sustain it I think that's an ongoing challenge with European projects as to how to do that. The Eurofrin board will continue to monitor the website, and I hope that the members will continue to put things on the website, but without funding, without the basic funding to drive it, the commitment to it will be less than. I mean, it has to be less than because there's no funding to prioritise that in people's daily lives. Yeah. When I look at it, I think that the annual meetings that were had were very important. And I think what this network also managed to achieve was that we had quite a lot of political meetings. So when we had the network, then we could, then we had a voice in Brussels about the importance of fruit. Whereas most of the partners, they work very much within their own country, and each of the partners are very active within their own country and within their own networks. But I think the power of coming together is that we actually had a voice of the importance of the fruit industry at a European level, and that was a really good benefit of the network. So other than us getting to exchange knowledge and us then also implementing best practice and knowledge for our end users, just being able to be heard in such a very, very big system. So that was quite good.
The Arachnis project has received funding from the European Union's Horizon 2020 Research and Innovation Programme under Grant Agreement number 817863.
Royalty-free music from Bensound.